So there's a pair of Wong Kar-wai classics from the early 90s, Chungking Express and Fallen Angels. Criminals, cops, and outsiders bump up against each other through twin stories in each movie, tangentially related and wispily related between the films. Strange, beautiful, outsized characters shine amidst quotidian settings around Hong Kong. These movies emerged around the same time as Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and in the shadow of John Woo's A Better Tomorrow, The Killer, and Hard Boiled. There were expectations for crime films at the time, and with his directorial debut As Tears Go By, Wong Kar-wai had fulfilled these expectations with action and black comedy. But Chungking Express and Fallen Angels are about as far away from either Woo or Tarantino as you can go. We'll get to Woo in the second video, but in the early 90s, Tarantino was giving us suited gangsters who whiled away their hours chatting about banal pop culture. At the time, that was shocking.
What was the name of the chick who played Christy Love?
Pam Grier did the film.
See, they're just like us, Tarantino was saying, and there was comedy gold in assassins talking about Big Macs and foot massages on the way to slaughtering a bunch of college kids. Wong's characters, on the other hand,
我们分手的那一天是愚人节，所以我一直当他是开玩笑。我愿意让他这个玩笑维持1个月。从分手的那一天开始，我每天都买1罐5月1号到期的凤梨罐头。我告诉我自己，当我买满30罐的时候，他如果还不回来，这段感情就会过期。
They're all glamorous people you'd expect to hide dark secrets, but on the inside, they're worried about mystic rules for eating pineapple, the love life of a soap bar, or ex-boyfriends who may not actually exist.
你出嚟咯喎，夠膽你就出嚟！你再唔出嚟咧，我數3聲就燒你間屋！我諗喺下一層。
Chungking Express's first story follows the fates of a betrayed drug smuggler and a lovelorn young cop as they are slowly drawn together. The cop has just been dumped and flails around to find someone to share his upcoming 25th birthday. Meanwhile, the drug smuggler preps some hapless Indian immigrants, whom she finds at Chungking Mansions, to serve as mules. The drug kingpin in charge seems to have an obsession with her. This may or may not be why he betrays her. Her mission is built to fail. A band of his thugs corners her in Chungking Mansions and tries unsuccessfully to kill her. She takes 2 of them out and somehow escapes on the metro, running, at Wong Kar-wai's insistence, in stiletto heels. Earlier, we saw the cop chasing down a handcuffed escapee in a mask in the same location. Their paths lead both of them to a bar across the street from the notorious Bottoms Up Club, probably best known to Americans as where James Bond meets up with the villains in The Man with the Golden Gun. The smuggler wants to be alone. The cop is desperate for company. After a couple of drinks, she passes out, and he takes her to a hotel room where nothing happens. The cop watches TV, smokes, takes her shoes off, and shines them, ever the romantic. Finally, the cop slips discreetly away. He said at the beginning that he was in love with this woman, but they never crossed paths again. He then bumps into the protagonist of our second story, with whom he shares a 0.1 centimeter proximity for a freeze frame. But then she goes to fall in love with somebody else a few hours later, with a different lovelorn cop for our second story. Wong Kar-wai's working title was Hong Kong, Day and Night, and it's neatly divided along those lines. Almost all scenes in Part 1 explore the vibrant night of bars and crime and grotty hostels, and most of Part 2 takes place in the bustling daytime of food deliveries, tourists, and normal life. Throughout the blurry and sometimes violent first story, we catch glimpses of the second story's love triangle. Tony Leung's cop walking his beat as Takeshi Kanashiro's cop pines down below. Leung's soon-to-be ex-girlfriend waiting for her next flight as Brigitte Lin's smuggler escorts her bedraggled Indian mules through the airport. Fei Wong's manic shopgirl purchasing a gigantic Garfield plush. That Garfield shot calls into question the film's chronology, since most logically, Fei Wong's character would have purchased it weeks or at least days after story 1 had concluded. But now I'm getting ahead of myself. The second story, same as the first, is pretty simple, aside from how it's told. A beat cop has been kicked to the curb by his unicorn flight attendant girlfriend. He claims that all men dream of bagging an airline stewardess. Chinese friends have told me that stewardesses are expected to be the height of beauty, and Valerie Chow here lives up to that hype. But the stewardess turns out to be heartless and more than a little tacky. Speaking of living up to the hype, this brings back the drug baron's fetish for Chinese women in blonde wigs, presumably making his bar girl a stand-in for Brigitte Lin. And Brigitte Lin wears the wig, as Wong Kar-wai himself will tell you, because the smuggler was written as a failed actress who acts out her life as Blanche Dubois from Streetcar Named Desire, who, of course, was also play-acting a fantasy ideal, the Southern Belle.
I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
All of these grubby little people wanting to obtain the big dream. A lot more on that when I get to Fallen Angels. When the stewardess dumps the cop, he takes to talking with objects in his apartment and ritualistically ordering iceberg lettuce salad at the same food stand. Now, what's up with cops constantly eating in movies? Unless a movie's about food, the only people who eat are Italians, funny fat people, and cops. Anyhow, Faye Wong's food stand girl falls madly in love with a cop and ends up with a key to his apartment. She cleans and redecorates, and hilariously, it takes him a little while to figure that out. He honestly suspects that his soap and his stuffed polar bear, affected by his own heartbreak, are just letting themselves go, until one day he catches Faye Wong in the act. Mortified, she gets a job as, guess what, a flight attendant, and gets out of town just as the cop feels ready to finally lay all his love on her. The movie ends with hope, if not with a happily ever after for anyone. Of the two films, 3 of the 4 stories are rooted in Chungking Mansions, so some explanation of that baffling structure is required. Chungking Mansions is a legendarily insane building. It stands about a block north of Hong Kong Harbor, that nexus of squeaky clean tourism, and it's literally across the street from the Peninsula Hotel, a very expensive, very classy place, also featured in 2 James Bond films, and where I can't afford afternoon tea. But as a peninsula sniffs superiorly at the glamorous harbor that it faces, its neighbor, Chungking Mansions, stares sideways at the peninsula with beady eyes, an unrepentant, wretched hive of scum and villainy. The ground floor is a maze of grotty Indian shops and fast food joints. Its upper floors include hostels populated largely by foreigners waiting for quick and questionable visa turnarounds, and the occasional sweatshop full of girls making suits for those guys down on the street who approach you randomly and say, "Tailor, sir?" And if you don't answer fast enough, hopefully add, "Hashish?" Chungking Express is actually nowhere near Chungking Mansions. The food stall lies across Victoria Harbor on Hong Kong Island in trendy Long Kwai Fong, known for its nightclubs that we never see in this film. Chungking Express is the other locus of activity in its eponymous movie. Kenishiro's cop makes many of his pathetic "date me on my birthday" phone calls at the payphone there, where the owner, played by Wong Kar-wai's still photographer, Piggy Chan, repeatedly fails to set him up with various employees. Faye Wong's character works there, though she spends her afternoons stalking Tony Leung near the central escalators, much to Piggy's frustration. So also a word about the escalators. This series of escalators runs about half a mile long up the steep slope of Hong Kong Island through the tourist-friendly Soho neighborhood. It's become one of the few escalators in the world that is a genuine tourist draw.
Escalator ride, escalator ride.
We're going up.
Tony Leung's apartment looks out barely on a stretch of the popular attraction. Leung's apartment was actually the apartment of cinematographer Christopher Doyle, who was a major player in the Wong Kar-wai team.
What a difference a day made.
Chungking Express was a guerrilla shoot without permits in some places where people definitely did not want their faces on camera. So Wong developed a smeary style, undercranking to 12 frames per second sometimes, then printing the image twice to produce something slow-mo but impressionistic. When he shot Tony Leung and Faye Wong having their moment at a food stand, Wong didn't have time to prep extras, so he wanted all of them out of focus. This produced a magical effect for the potential lovers in real time, as everyone else is a blur. But the serendipity doesn't stop there. It even played into the costuming. We see Faye Wong playfully trying on the United Airlines uniform of her rival while stalking Tony Leung. At the end, she arrives at Chungking Express, which has been purchased by Leung, dressed as a flight attendant. Originally, Wong Kar-wai had wanted her to work for Hong Kong's Cathay Pacific, but the uniform looked terrible on the actress, so they kept it United, increasing the discomforting Vertigo single white female style transformation of Faye into Valerie Chow's character. Leaving both of these movies, we find ourselves humming Chinese covers of Western pop hits, Only You by Yazoo and Dreams by the Cranberries, the latter sung by Faye Wong. And we are bludgeoned over the head with Faye Wong blasting California Dreamin' over and over and over again in the latter half of Chungking Express. My wife joked that they were milking that licensing fee for all it was worth. But Wong Kar-wai has said that he wanted California Dreamin' to be the fabric of Faye Wong's love story. It's innocence. It's a dream of an unreachable paradise. Faye Wong may not actually want to live in California, but she wants to live in her fantasy world. Though it may not look like it to a Westerner, Chungking Express and Wong Kar-wai's other films are jam-packed with foreignness. Obviously, in Chungking Express, there is the band of Indians, but that goes a lot deeper. Lynn Smuggler wears her alienating Blanche Dubois wig. Beijing Ren Faye Wong was cast to give the movie some edgy cool, and she's presented as an out-of-towner just passing through her cousin's business. Kenishiro, Taiwanese like Lin, did not yet speak Cantonese, which led to his voiceovers being in Mandarin in both Chungking Express and Fallen Angels, with only a few lines lines of memorized Cantonese, and a memorable scene where the cosmopolitan Kaneshiro tries picking up Lin in multiple languages.
パイナップル好き? Do you like pineapple? 小姐，请问你喜欢吃凤梨吗?
While filming Fallen Angels, he took to chatting in Taiwanese with a manager of one of those Chungking Mansions hostels between takes. Their rapport actually led Wong Kar-wai to write the manager into the movie as Kaneshiro's father, Fallen Angels' most endearing character. The guy won awards for his performance. I should move on to Fallen Angels, which had been written as a third story which Wong just couldn't work into Chungking Express. I am actually grateful for that, because this movie is pretty close to perfect as it stands. So I'll see you next time with Fallen Angels.
I'm such a winner's day.